Hello, everyone. It's the Bharat Army podcast. We are back for a brand new episode, and we are going to put the pleasantries aside and just get straight into the nitty gritty today because we are talking about the Australia Test Series. Test cricket is back with us. Anybody who thinks that it's not the ultimate format of the game, you will not hear that opinion on this podcast because we all love our Test cricket here. And we are back at the scene of the event of the century for Indian cricket, the Test Series victory that happened in Australia. And we're back playing the Aussies again. Slightly more nervous this time round, I think it's fair to say from people. Maybe not, going on the highs that we were last time. But as you can see, we've got a packed house of everybody here today to talk about the India-Australia Test Series down under. So let's see who we've got on this podcast. We've got returning our podcast regular now at this point. We've got Ahan. How's it going, Ahan? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
Yes, very good. Thank you. Very good. We've also got Sanchit, our resident Steve Smith lover and hater in the corner over there. How's it going, Sanchit? You all right?
Good. Looking forward to this my international debut on this Bharat Army podcast show.
International debut. Look at that, and he's even got the correct jacket and the colours on as well. Look at that. How to plug the product, eh? And because we're in Australia for this series, we even have a Hayden on the podcast this week. Of course, we've got Amanda Hayden. How's it going, Amanda?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'd like to believe that Matthew Hayden is your long-lost Australian uncle, so I'm going to just go with that and believe that. We also have joining us for her podcast debut this week. We've got Anusha. How's it going, Anusha? You all right?
Oh yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh yes, I'm good. And Anusha, you were there in Australia for the Test Series victory last time we were there. Must have some amazing memories from that time.
Yeah, it's the best memories, even better than a World Cup victory for me. It's that good.
Oh, I would agree with that as well. I would agree with that. And we also have a mini reunion of the elite back on the podcast as well. Let's start with Rav. How's it going, Rav? You're back.
Yeah. This is going to be a really good podcast. I think we've all been looking forward to some good Test cricket. We've had the white ball stuff, so bring on the red ball stuff.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we've even got Akshay Lumba joining us back on the podcast as well. How's it going, Akshay?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. I think it's a bit strange doing a podcast on a series that's actually going to happen. I think during lockdown we're doing podcasts about things that might happen, but so it feels good to know that India are back actually now, and we can talk about a cricket series that is about to happen very, very shortly.
Yeah, indeed. There's only so many times you could talk about India and New Zealand, the World Cup semi-final from 2019. So it's good to actually talk about some current cricket. We've got Jinesh back on the podcast as well, holding the Gujarati end up. We've got Jinesh.
Hello.
How's it going, Jin? You all right?
All good, mate. Actually buzzing in anticipation for proper cricket to be back. Test match cricket is the real deal. And I think it's going to be tough for India, but exciting nonetheless.
Yes, and we'd also go amiss not to mention your retro World Cup 1992 shirt that you're wearing currently today,
Yep.
Jin. Love it, love the style, love the fashion. And we've got Abhishek rounding off the members of the elite panel on this podcast. How's it going, Abhishek?
All good, thanks, Ashish. All good. Looking forward to getting stuck into this. As the guys have been saying, Australia away is probably the biggest test, for any nation. So can't wait to get going on this one.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, getting stuck in. Well, let's get stuck in, shall we? So obviously India coming off the white ball series. They lost 2-1 in the ODI series, but won 2-1 in the T20 series. And there are 4 tests to play. First one starting on the 17th of December, day-night test, Adelaide. Then the Boxing Day test match at Melbourne. Then on January 7th, the SCG test match. And on Brisbane, January 15th is the 4th test match. So lots to look forward to there. Let's give you a quick rundown of the players that have been selected for the Test series. So we've got Virat Kohli, obviously, as captain, Ajinkya Rahane, vice-captain. We've got Mayank Agarwal, Ravichandran Ashwin, Jasprit Bumrah, Shubman Gill, Ravi Jadeja, Rishabh Pant, Cheteshwar Pujara, KL Rahul, Wriddhiman Saha, Navdeep Saini, Mohammad Shami, Rohit Sharma, Prithvi Shaw, Mohammad Siraj, Hanuma Vihari, Kuldeep Yadav, and Umesh Yadav. So that's the bunch who we're going to be hoping are going to do the business for us with the red ball down under. So let's kick things off, shall we? I think obviously the main thing to discuss is that Virat Kohli is obviously only going to be playing for the first Test match. He's not going to be playing for the last three. The reason of which is not up for debate on this podcast because we are not the tabloids. But the absence of Virat Kohli is going to be something that I think is going to be a really tough uphill struggle for us. So we're going to go first to our resident Virat Kohli expert. We're going to go to Amanda first. Amanda, how do you think the boys are going to fare out there without their captain?
I'm honestly hoping the guys can, handle themselves without the captain. Obviously, Virat Kohli is a great test player. Everyone loves watching him play. I think, Kohli's absence might put a tad bit of pressure on Rahane, but hopefully, I think Rahane has got enough of experience playing in tests and everything. So Kohli's absence could or could not make a difference. I can't say honestly because I've literally watched Virat Kohli play tests after tests after tests. And hopefully, the boys will stay on their toes without him and carry them home. I think, hopefully.
Well, yeah, let's certainly hope so. Yeah, let's go over to Jinesh. Jinesh, Virat Kohli not being there for the last three tests, who's going to be the person that's going to step up in his place?
Look, we've got batsmen that can step up. Shubman Gill, if he gets a chance, I'm hoping. Look, Rahane wouldn't have even made my test team. Now he's going to be the captain. Hopefully, that kind of motivates him to get his A game out. Virat Kohli is a massive loss. He's such a big loss that I was kind of looking forward to this test series so much. And the few days after I heard that, he was not going to be playing, it kind of depressed me in a way because, I had these visions of Virat Kohli smashing 400s in 4 test matches. So I think he's going to be a massive, massive, massive miss. I think it's irreplaceable personally. To get the amount of runs that he has scored in Test cricket in the last 3 years is going to be a mountain to climb for any player.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's gonna be tough to replace him. Rav, you were also fairly on the upset side, shall we say, when it was announced that Virat Kohli wasn't going to be playing in those last 3 tests.
Yeah, just to kind of echo what's been said already. We obviously went into a series last time when Australia missed their 2 biggest players, and it really, really showed. And India got an advantage from that. We took advantage of that, and we scored big runs. And the difference in the runs and our bowling attack won us the series. I think, not to put too fine a point on it, VK's loss is huge for us purely because he can bat in all conditions. He got a really, really good 100 at Perth, I think, in the last series. So, he would have played really well on bouncy wickets, even the spin-friendly surfaces that we're probably going to get later in the series at Sydney. So I think he is the kind of fulcrum. All the batting revolves around him. So we obviously need another huge series probably from Pujara, but it's a massive loss. His captaincy is a loss because it will bring out the best in the team against a side like Australia that they love the battle. So I think that in the last series again was a huge plus for the team. So I think on a few fronts it's hard, but again it brings opportunity. And as we've said, there's people such as Shubman Gill who could potentially make a really exciting debut in this series. And then also we've got other new bowlers, etc. We've got another combinations we can look at as well. So India have got to look at how they deal with it, but it's certainly not going to be easy.
No, indeed. Yeah, Anusha, obviously you were there last time when India were down under and won that test series. Obviously you must have seen, Virat Kohli, not just the batsman, but Virat Kohli, the captain as well. How big is the loss of that going to be?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say actually. When we were there, right, the aggression or the attitude that he had on the field was extremely important to get the team going. I think we are going to miss that, and Australia is going to be very happy. It's a plus for them that our best batsman is missing. And that's what they look for, right? But having said that, I know it's going to put extra pressure on Rahane. He's not been doing great with the bat. But I somehow, whatever I've seen, I like his captaincy style. He's very different from Virat, but he does the right things quietly. So it could work for us as well, but I know we are going to miss Virat. But I have a different point on who could replace. I hope Gill actually opens from the first test. And I just think, what if Prithvi Shaw could come in at 4? Just take him away from the new ball. Just get him some experience, get him some runs. I know he's been opening all the time. We could even try that, is my thought.
All right, fair enough. Well, yeah, we'll have to wait to see what batting lineup they actually put together. Ahan, obviously we talk a lot about that Australia Netflix show, not Netflix, sorry, Amazon Prime show. Whoops, don't want to get in any legal trouble. The Amazon Prime show where they talk about how much they're all really worried about Virat Kohli, and obviously they're not going to be very worried about him in this series.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to say, actually, that if you saw this show last time, I don't know how much of it is like done for the camera, but it seemed like that's the one player that really worries them. Like, you don't normally see Australia getting worried about players, but I think that is the one player that they look at and be like, oh my God, okay, he can do something and we need to get him out. Because he's got, and he's, I think more than Virat, the batsman, because I think we've got enough talent. Obviously, Virat does really well, but and he glues the team together. But we've got the talent. I think what we're going to miss is Virat, like the leader on the field, like the fact that, because Rahane, as good a captain as he is, whatever his tactics might be, he's not the kind of guy who'll get in your face and get under your skin. And there was, I think, one particular test match in the last series where I think even Langer even said that I could feel that Kohli got under our skin. And the fact is, if you can get under Australia's skin, that is saying something. So I think that is what we're going to miss, because if you get under their skin, then you're going to make them make mistakes. And that's more important for India, I think, than the batsman. Obviously, the batsman is important, but still.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and maybe saying a little something about how people from Delhi can easily get under other people's skin. Sanjit, what's your thoughts about no Virat Kohli being there?
Certainly, it's a big loss for India, and as well as it's a big loss for the Australian media as well. Virat Kohli is such a sensation down in Australia. But I think, yes, I agree with Ahan that we are going to miss Virat Kohli, the captain, on the field more than Virat Kohli, the batsman. And obviously, Virat Kohli is the only Indian person. I think when he came in 2012 in that series, he was the only one who stepped up to the Australians. We never thought that any Indian could have done that, but Virat Kohli was the first one to do that, and certainly we are going to miss that a lot. And talking about Rahane's captaincy, he's complete opposite pillar of Virat Kohli. He is a good captain, but we certainly believe that Australian tour was the last series that Virat Kohli would miss. But talking about the batting, I think there are many potential batsmen in the side who could step up to that number 4 role, and who knows, we might even find our very own Manas Labuschagne in that number 4 spot in the absence of Virat Kohli. So pretty excited about it as well, and a little bit nervous about the series result.
That getting under the skin of the Australians is a very good point, right? And what's going to be interesting this series is if you watch that show, the one that you guys were on about in Amazon, right? The Australians had come out of the ball tampering scandal. So they wanted to be clean, right? And so although Kohli was getting under their skin, at all costs, they were told that they cannot react. Now, I believe this time round, they aren't going to be as goody two-shoes. So we've lost our aggressive guy. And in turn, I reckon the old Australians are going to be back. So it's going to be interesting viewing.
Well, if we want a player who will really get under their skin, we've got Ashwin waiting in the lineup. All he has to do is a couple of monkards and he'd be right under their skin. Yeah. Abhishek, let's go over to you, and then we'll go over to Akshay last on your thoughts of Virat Kohli's absence.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it can be understated enough how much of a massive blow it is that he's not going to be there for 3/4 of the series. I think, I don't want to be too negative, but it almost goes as far to making it an impossible task, I think, to win this series without him. The last tour we had without Kohli's runs, we would have lost the series or not won the series at the very least. And that was without the opposition's strongest players. That's without Australia having Warner and Smith. And, this time round, they're going to be at full strength and we're going to lose our strongest batsman. So I'm quite concerned, and I think, it's not great for the team, but like some of the others said, it's a good opportunity for some of the other boys to try and step up. I think it's going to be a huge series for Rahane and Pujara. We're really going to have to count on them to make big runs with their, we have Kohli missing. So hopefully the other boys can step up, but I'm very, very worried, about having that big gap in the team of losing the best player in the world.
Yeah, Akshay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think just echoing everyone's points, but I think for me the biggest concern, of course, we know Virat Kohli is going to be a huge loss to the runs, the captain, etc., etc. But, we have to accept the fact that we don't have Virat Kohli. Now, the question for me is going into the series, we obviously thought, we've got a chance, a small chance, but we've got a chance. I just hope now, without Virat Kohli, that the players themselves still believe they've got a chance. Because if you're in that dressing room, you're looking around, there's some good players. But do they still believe they've got a chance without Virat Kohli? Us as fans, Abs has just said himself, it's the impossible task. Are starting to think, if we can win one game, that'll be good. For the Test Series final. People aren't really believing we're going to win the series, but do the players themselves believe that they're going to win the series? Because if they don't, it's over already. So I hope they do. I hope there's fight in that dressing room and they think, Virat Kohli's not around, but there's an opportunity for me, Ajinkya Rahane is captain. There's an opportunity for me, KL Rahul or Shubman Gill batting in number 4, whoever that might be. Very rarely will India change that middle order now from 3 down to 6. It's quite a settled middle order. It has been for a while. So the guys on the sidelines don't really get a chance in that middle order. So now they do. Now it's the time to see how good of a player they are. Are they going to take their opportunities? Us as fans, of course, hope they do. But time will tell.
I guess one thing I was just going to raise as well, if you look at the schedule, after the first test, you've got 2 quite batting-friendly surfaces at Melbourne and Sydney. So it's not. I don't think it is mission impossible. I do think it's game on if we can get big first innings runs, and not facing Australia at Brisbane early doors is probably the best thing that we could have hoped for, and getting Brisbane at the end of the season. So if we can be in the series, from Sydney, and hopefully nick the Adelaide Test, then you never know, because the next 2 surfaces it should be easier for our batters to score, even without the great batsman himself.
So, Rav, does it become mission impossible if we don't win that first Adelaide Test with Virat Kohli in the team?
I think it would be extremely difficult at that point, because I think Australia, we always see when they go on a roll at home, they're almost impossible to stop, irrespective of the opposition. So I think another thing to kind of maybe look at without Kohli being there is the bowlers are going to have to effectively captain themselves. I know they kind of do, but because Rahane is a very different captain, I'd like to see the bowlers really obviously take the responsibility, and because I think we're going to score potentially less runs than last time, so we may need them to get us out of those kind of sticky situations a bit more. But they're very, very good surfaces in Australia, so again, your spinner is going to be very important as well.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we'll talk about which batsmen are going to be the ones who are going to be able to bring those big runs, so that we could, put up a good fighting total in some of these stadiums and some of these pitches. I wanted to talk a little bit about the batting order. However, I believe that there's one name that's going to keep coming up over and over again when we discuss it. So I'm going to go to Ahan first to get us underway for, seeing as you are Delhi Capitals representative number 1. Rishabh Pant. Right, Rishabh Pant or Wriddhiman Saha are the wicket-keeping choices, essentially, to go with. What do you think, Ahan? Who's your choice? If it was all down to you and Ravi Shastri, kind of put a drink in your hand and said, it's you and me, kid, we're taking on the management here. Who would you say should start that first test for India?
If Ravi Shastri asked me to choose a team, India's in trouble. But I think for me, the key thing when we're deciding our keeper overseas is the runs. Especially with Virat Kohli not being there, we need runs more than ever before. And therefore, I think we need to choose our keeper based more on who's going to give us that extra runs. Like, I think a lot of people have said this, that Wriddhiman Saha does not inspire fear in the opposition. If he bats for a session, he'll get 30, 40, maybe 50 runs. If Rishabh Pant bats for a session and a half, he can get you 80, 90, 100 runs, which could change the game. It could change the course of the game. It could change the outcome of the game in a session. Because, 100 runs, even 80 runs goes a long way in shaping the way that a game is going to go. And I think that's why, for me, obviously Saha is the better keeper, but I think Saha is the better keeper when it comes to spin. And I don't know how much spin we're going to face on these tracks over here, especially in the first test. And I think if it's going to be a pacer-friendly wicket, yes, okay, maybe Pant's mobility in terms of diving around and all is a bit less than Saha, but I think his runs more than make up for it. And given that we're going to need runs as much as possible in this series, Pant for me is hands down the first choice. There should be no debate about this.
Well, we are going to debate it. And the question I would put to you then, just to play devil's advocate, obviously here, is you're talking about, if Pant did bat for, that period of time. He could take the game away from somebody. But can he bat for that period of time that you're asking?
I mean, he's got 2 international hundreds, test hundreds. I know some people will say the first one is a dead innings at Oval when the series didn't really matter. But it's still about scoring those runs. And the fact of the matter is he scored 200s overseas in England and Australia, which are probably 2 of the toughest conditions. And he's done. And I mean, for all of Dhoni's greatness, I mean, I'm not creating a debate here or anything, but Dhoni didn't manage that in a very long career playing overseas. So the fact that he's done it means he can score the runs. And now that he's got 100 in the warm-up game, okay, fine, it might not be against the best bowling attack, but it still gives you confidence as a batsman that, okay, now I back my skills. I know I can do it if whatever they put in front of me. So I think he has the ability. He just needs to apply himself a little bit and he'll be fine.
Akshay, what do you think about the whole Bunt versus Saha debate?
Well, listen, it's a debate that we'll never find an answer for because it will always divide opinion. I personally, I'm firmly on the side of Rhythm and Saha, and I'll explain why. So when I look at Test cricket as Test batsmen, I don't just look at stats. He scored 100 in England, etc. I look at their technique, and everyone's talking about Rishabh Pant's 100 that he just scored in the warm-up game. Which, when I was watching it, his technique was hoiks over cow corner for 6. No pressure on him whatsoever. We had runs on the board when he came in. It's not like we were 50 for 5 and Rishabh Pant's coming in and he's doing those miraculous shots. There were sort of pressure off situations where, when Rishabh Pant has scored his big runs before in Test cricket, I always see them as pressure off situations as well, where he can free his arms. Now, when I'm thinking of our Test innings in Australia, I'm imagining us being in tricky situations. Where we have lost a couple of quick wickets. We need to, restabilise. We need someone that can bat with the tail. And I see Rhythm and Saha as that guy. I don't see us being, 300-400 runs on the board and you have Rishabh Pant then playing his flamboyant innings. In those situations at home, then yeah, maybe. But away, I always would rather pick the player that's going to fight at the crease and not give his wicket away. And Rhythm and Saha's 50 that he scored in the warm-up game was a brilliant innings as well. So I think both of them have talent to bat. Neither of them are the best keeper batsmen in the world. Let's be frank. But out of the two, I'd always pick the guy that's gonna survive and has the technique to survive, rather than try and hit out of the ground. If Rishabh Pant hit those 6s in the IPL, Delhi might have won it. I don't know where he was in the IPL, but certainly in the warm-up game, it seemed like he was playing T20 cricket. Yeah, it was impressive, 100 off 70 odd balls. But for me, we've got to be a bit realistic. I want a batsman that can properly bat. There's been complaints for years and years about his temperament, and I just think we need someone that can stick around and support. Maybe Bahari or even if you're batting with Ashwin and bat long really in Australia.
Okay, let's go over to Abhishek and then we'll go back to Ahan.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Akshay, to be honest with you. I think Rishabh Pant may get the nod, and I'm not doubting he's got a lot of talent and, is potentially the future for India. But this is a very, very important series right now that we've got coming up. And if I was in charge of, picking the team, I would want a bit of a more conservative selection. I don't know if we can rely on Rishabh Pant, to make those runs. He's been dropped from the one-day side, for showing a bit of a lack of temperament. And, his shot selection has been a little bit dodgy, shall we say, over the last couple of years. And I think Rhythm and Saha is just going to be a more reliable choice. Pant had a great series in Australia last time he went, point taken. But since then, that was 2 years ago, I don't really think he's done anything good, to be honest. So, if it was me personally, I'd go with Saha purely because I think he's, a better keeper, and also he's going to be more reliable. And I just think we need to be a little bit more conservative. It would be too much of a risk, I think, to pick Pant, who could, easily, go for a big one early on and get out, as we've seen him do so many times. So, I'm not doubting that, he's got talent and that he can't, cement a spot for an Indian team in the future. But for this important series, I'd want to be more conservative and go with a reliable player like Saha. So that's my view on things.
Yep. Ahan, go for it.
No, I just wanted to say a couple of things. I think firstly, I think Akshay made the point about technique and that he'd rather have someone who's technically better at, as a batsman. But I think, I mean, some of the most successful test batsmen who got amassed tons of runs, like for example Sehwag, and even today people like Butler, they don't have the most insane technique going around, but they still manage to get the runs. And I think Saha is the safe choice. He's the conservative choice. And I think if you're trying to win a series overseas, you need to take some decisions that are harsh, that are aggressive, that are actually, you're trying to win the game. And if Pant and Saha bat for the same amount of, let's say if Pant and Saha even bat 25 balls each, Pant will get you more runs than Saha will. And I think that is what is important. We need to understand that if we're going to win the series, especially in the first test, given that Kohli is there is a sort of a cushion there as well. So, I mean, if we back Pant and Pant comes off and he finds his confidence in the first game, because he's obviously now coming off 100. Whatever we might say, the bowlers are, as a batsman, if you get 100, it does give you confidence. So he's going to be coming with confidence, and I think that will give him that will propel him to go after the Australian bowling. And if he gets going, the Australians will be worried, no doubt about that.
Yeah, Amanda, where do you kind of fall on this debate, whether it's Rishabh Pant or Wriddhiman Saha?
Well, I know Saha's a great keeper, and having a good keeper really, really makes a difference. But again, I absolutely agree with Ahan. I think Rishabh Pant has gained a lot of confidence while playing against a side like Australia. And also when you look at records, I think, Rishabh Pant, again, runs are so much more important. You have other batsmen to anchor the innings, take them forward and stuff. Rishabh Pant is merely there just to score runs for them. And you look at Rishabh Pant's averages and it's almost 50. He's not played too many tests, but the tests he has played, he's averaged around 50. And I think the last two he played, he scored around 300 plus runs. But when you look at Wriddhiman Saha, we've already got so many other players like Gill, Kohli, and KL if he makes the spot. You've got a lot of other batsmen who could anchor the innings and take them off, but you need those extra runs, which Ahan said. So obviously I'm looking at Rishabh Pant in the playing 11 because he could get those runs. He's got a decent average. Saha's average is around, if I'm not wrong, it's below 20. So I think those extra runs do make a difference. Yeah. Yeah,
indeed. Yeah, they will make a difference. Yeah. Rav, what do you think about this?
I think just to say all the points raised, I think are really good points, because I think that when it comes to this debate, it really depends about, are you prioritising your best gloveman, or are you saying that the runs are the most important thing? For me personally, the runs are the most important thing in this series specifically, because we're not going in with huge form, with lots of runs under our belt in previous test series, because it's been cold for the last year and we've not really done much. So from that perspective, I would always keep the guy in possession of the gloves. But I also take the point that Pant does have to play with responsibility. And I do think that we do need to see a slightly different Pant to what we saw last time, because when you come in for your first series of Australia, I think they may have given him the license at that point to say, look, counter-attack, because as a counter-attacking batsman, he's brilliant. And I think that he's somebody that can put the bowlers off their length, etc. And Saha, has had a tour of Australia. He was the keeper in 14-15 and didn't really do much. I would say arguably cost us the Adelaide Test match with some quite reckless batting himself. So for me, I would go with the guy in possession. Also, I think in a pink ball Test match, as Ahan said, you give up an hour of Pant and it's 80 runs in a Test match these days. Sides don't score over 400 these days, so that's a big percentage of runs to be adding on if your wicketkeeper comes off. So I would go Pant as well.
Gosh, we've got a split house here, it seems. Jeez. Anusha, which way do you go on this debate?
When we talk about technique, right, we think about batsmen first. I feel even for a wicketkeeper, it's extremely important. I know people can say with spinners, etc., but with the ball moving, bouncing, etc., I am not very sure if Rishabh Pant is better than Saha. For me, Saha is a better keeper, no doubt. Batting, I tend to agree with Akshay. It's not going to be like an Oval Test or the one in Sydney where we had scored a lot of runs for Pant to come in and just smash. If he does, good. But I think he'll not fight it out like Saha, and we need somebody like that if we lose a lot of wickets to fight it out there. So for me, it is Saha.
Woof! Gosh, this is turning into like a day in Indian Parliament. Jinesh, which way do you go on this?
I'm with kind of Rav and Ahan. Bunt has to be the keeper. Reason being, look, we need runs. Wicket keeping technique, yes, Saha is better. Bunt is still young. He's work in progress. However, from what I've seen of Bunt, he's not cost India a test match with the gloves. Saha, with the bat, played a shot in Adelaide, which if I was playing under 15 cricket and one of my colleagues played, I would probably give them a slap. So in terms of batting, you can say all you want. You could say, okay, Oval, Sydney, dead test matches, etc., right? In them same dead test matches, none of your batsmen scored 100. We talk about 200s in Senna by a wicketkeeper that has never been done by an Indian. I can go far as saying, ignore Pujara, ignore Kohli, and none of your batsmen have done that. 2 Senna hundreds is a massive thing for an Indian test lineup that hardly scores hundreds abroad. So on that basis, Pant also, people struggle to differentiate between Pant and his irresponsible white ball batting with his red ball batting. So I think that's a key point. In India also, perception's a key. Pant's, a bit new India. He's aggressive. He earns IPL money. He's a dasher. People don't like that. Prior to the last Australian series, Pujara averaged less than 30 in Senna. Even with that Australian series, he averages less than 40 in the last 3 years. But no one will talk about Pujara. Why? Because he's perceived to be a good boy. Indians love good boys, So based on that, I will say Pant all day long.
Oh, okay. And I can tell you one thing for sure. I would not want to be on your under 15 cricket team. Sanjit, what do you think?
First of all, very interesting points made by everyone. But for me, I believe I have a very different opinion on this. I'm going with Team Ahan, that is Team Rishabh Pant on this, because I believe that in overseas condition, especially in Australia, the lower order runs are very much crucial for any side to have a chance to win a match. So Rishabh Pant he's perceived as he does only well in overseas, but I believe he has a couple of 90s in the home series as well. So it's not that he is just suited for the overseas conditions, but I believe that he is a better batsman than Viriddhiman Saha, and with the absence of Virat Kohli, I believe that we must have an X-factor player in our side, especially in a series against Australia. So Rishabh Pant, I think he is going to be the key in our lower middle order. So especially when it's always easier for batsmen in the middle order to score runs, especially in Australia with the old Kookaburra ball not swinging too much. So I think Rishabh Pant will hold key for us to get those crucial runs. And also if we are chasing, then I believe that Rishabh Pant is someone that the Australians would look to get out. But as you saw what happened with Saha in Adelaide, so if we compare India in a chase of, let's say, 300 to 360, then I believe that Australia would fancy Saha at the crease more than Rishabh Pant. So I think these are my points based on this, but no doubt Saha is a brilliant keeper, and arguably he's one of the best keepers in the world, especially in this Test cricket format. But in a series where we are lacking a couple of stars in our lineup, I believe that Rishabh Pant holds a key in our side.
Well, I'm gonna kick it back to Akshay for a second, because Akshay, obviously we've had a few people obviously telling their thoughts about Pant and about Saha, and with the reliability with the bat, I'm just wondering, can Saha actually provide that reliability that you're hoping that he can?
Well, I think so. And listen, as I said before, he's not the best keeper batsman at all. But he can bat. I don't know if anyone watched him in the IPL. He had a couple of serious innings. His innings now in the Australia A, the India A was really impressive as well. And I'm not saying he's the long-term solution. I'm talking about this series itself. He can hold the bat. He has the right temperament for it. He can play defense, play attack. He can do a job for us. I'm not saying he's going to average over 50. I'm saying he's going to get 25s, 30, 35s, but he's going to spend time at the crease. Ahan made a point that if they both have 25 balls to face, who's going to get more runs? of course, Rishabh Pant. But my issue is I don't think Rishabh Pant will survive 25 balls. That's the problem. Whereas I know Saha has it in him to survive. Yeah, he might get a Jaffa and he might get out early, of course, but he's not going to give his wicket away. And I have a fear and anxiety whenever Rishabh Pant comes out to bat that he's going to give his wicket away. And yeah, I don't want that fear and anxiety in the first or second Test match. But I think we've got to be fluid. Whoever gets the nod, if they don't perform, we've got to switch it around. There's only 4 Test matches. There'll be arguments that back the player. I think in this series, whoever's in form has to get the gloves.
Yeah, go ahead, Ahan.
No, I completely understand that point. I was just looking at the stats that Pant's had over the course of his Test career, and especially last time he was in Australia. And I know Akshay just made the point that I don't know if Pant will bat 20 balls, but last time he was in Australia, he had 25 of 38, 28 of 16, 36 of 50, 30 of 61, 39 of 76, 33 of 43, and 159 of 189. So except for one innings, in all the other innings that he batted, he managed to cross. In all innings, he crossed 25 runs, and he still managed to cross 30 balls in all except one innings. And I think Saha, if he bats those 36, 35 balls, he'll get you 10, 15 runs. And I think that those 20, 30 runs could make a difference at the end.
But just one other point I want to make. I do think Pant's trajectory has been on a sort of a downhill spiral since then. He looks really unfit. Most players in the Virat Kohli era have been increasing their fitness levels as they become more and more an important player. Whereas Rishabh Pant seems to be going the other way. And since that series, as Ab said before, he's done nothing impressive. So yeah, he did it. Those stats are pretty impressive. And I saw Jinesh nodding his head, saying that's really, really good. But that was 2 years ago. It's been a long time since then. He has done absolutely nothing since. And I know you shouldn't be looking at Test cricket comparing it to IPL. Of course not. But that's the only cricket we've had all year, and he was atrocious in the IPL. Rishabh Pant, he was completely out of sorts, and
although he had a good final,
or fitness. Say again.
He had a good final. He came in a tricky situation, and he played well.
Yeah, but that's one game. Over the period of 8 weeks, he was really, really disappointing player out of people that we had high expectations for.
If I was going to make one point on a broader level about our composition, I would almost, with a pink ball test, you kind of have to treat it as a bit of an anomaly because you're going back to red ball tests afterwards on some really, really flat wickets, and the pink ball just does a lot more. So I would hate a situation where whoever the keeper has chosen, we make a decision on a pink ball test match with 3 red ball tests to come. So whoever it is, I think has to get the whole series. And I think whoever we back, if they fail in Adelaide, so be it, because scores are quite low in day-night Test matches as they are, and then you have to back them for Melbourne flat wicket, Sydney flat wicket, and hopefully you're still in the series by Brisbane.
Well, yes, we've got a real split house here on Bharat Army headquarters. We've got 3 of you going for Ridhiman Saha, and the other 5 of you going for Rishabh Pant. My vote would be for Dhoni to come out of retirement and don the gloves. Let's talk about some of the other batsmen that are in the mix down there. Jinesh, I just want to talk to you about one of the selections for the Test side. KL Rahul, IPL's #1 top scorer extraordinaire, has made it back into the Test team. Is this really KL Rahul's last chance in the red ball, do you think?
To be honest, I'm hoping that he does not get into the Test team, and from the teams that were picked in the practice games, I think there's suggestion that he will not make it. How he's been picked in the squad baffles me, because, a few years ago, or maybe a decade ago, Ganguly got dropped from the Indian Test match team, right? And he had to go back, he had to score runs in Ranji Trophy, and then he worked himself back in the Indian team. KL Rahul, since he has been dropped and since he's been picked in the squad, has done nothing in red ball cricket. What he has done is scored a lot of white ball runs. You could go back to Manchester 2018, where he scored an amazing 20-100 against England, right? He then played the Test series. Everyone, knew how he performed. I do believe he's very talented. I do think a lot of the way he bats is very mental. But at the moment, I'd rather give opportunities to a Shubman Gill. Even Rohit Sharma. Okay, he's injured at the moment, but Rohit Sharma would get a place in my team before KL Rahul does.
And, obviously we're talking about some of the other batsmen there, so we'll stick with you for just a moment, Jinesh. But obviously the two names that, kind of come out of the lineup, really, Shubman Gill and Prithvi Shaw. Do you think they're going to factor in at any point? Obviously, Ahan, we've had many a discussion about Prithvi Shaw on our IPL weekly podcast. But Jinesh, what do you think? Prithvi Shaw and Shubman Gill, do you think that they're going to get some game time?
Shubman Gill, I hope definitely he's the future. To be honest, say for example, VK was not going back home. Shubman Gill was in my middle order ahead of Rahane. Prithvi Shaw now, he's the tricky one, yeah? He's out of form. However, he's shown glimpses in the last two kind of domestic practice games that, he's got it in him to score 40. I like backing players, so I'm not really too sure about Prithvi Shaw at the moment. I don't want to drop him because he averages over 15 test match cricket. The last test series we had in New Zealand, he had a failure in the first test match, right? And in the second test match, he rectified his technique a little and scored a wonderful 50. Now, anyone that can change their mindset and technique within one test match, I think has got talent. So I would probably persist with him as my opener.
Yeah, Rav, your keen Punjabi eyes have been traced on Shubman Gill for quite a while now. So do you think he's going to get some game time? And what do you think about Prithvi Shaw fitting in the lineup somewhere?
If we were playing in England or South Africa or New Zealand, where there's a lot more lateral movement with a ball, then I would say I think Prithvi's more of a risk. I've just got a feeling that on these bouncy wickets, and again, especially if he can get through Adelaide and get to two quite flat wickets in Melbourne and Sydney, I think he could get runs. And I think he's just got to tighten up. He's got to stop playing shots early doors. He's got to do what Sunil Gavaskar says, give the first half an hour to the bowlers and to the fielders and just try and get yourself in, because these wickets are quite true. And when the Kookaburra ball gets quite old, it gets soft, and it's going to be easier for him to score. So I just think for him, it's a mental thing. Shubman Gill, just what can you say? The kid is so talented. He is a long-term opening prospect for India. But in my opinion, I wouldn't open him in the Adelaide Test. I would bed him in. It was always my personal view that he should play in the middle order and then move up.
Agree.
With Virat going home, I would really hope that they make a spot for him for the final 3 games at least. And going into a really important year as well, we're going to have England at home, England away. Let's get this kid confident ahead of a really, really tough set of series.
Yeah, Anusha, let's go back over to you for your thoughts on Shubman Gill, Prithvi Shaw, and some of the other batsmen that you're hoping may come into the lineup.
Yeah, so I think one thing is every test, in the first 3 tests, we are going to have some changes, right? The first one, Virat, second one, Virat goes out. I think Rohit is going to come to the third one. So he'll walk into the team. Otherwise, I don't think they would want to send him there all the way, right? So there are going to be changes. I just like Shubman Gill's technique. I think he has it in him to open, for sure. See, it's all about technique, and I don't see that in Prithvi Shaw, or I don't have the confidence in him. So I want Gill to open, and I think he will do well there, even if it's the Adelaide Day-Night Test match, because he has the technique to do it. So like I said, I know not many will agree. I was just thinking if Virat goes out, if he plays Shaw at 4, where probably the ball's not doing too much, just get him time at the crease. You never know, he might get his confidence back, is what I think. And once Rohit comes in, we'll have to see whoever doesn't do well. Maybe, see, last time in MCG, he batted at number 6. He did not open, Rohit Sharma. So they might even consider that. Or if one of the openers fail, Rohit might go to the top of the order. So these are the few things that I have in mind. And Vihari, I think, could be 4 or 6 based on the situation.
Yes, indeed,
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind Vihari opening, because I think the key in Australia is to lose as least wickets as possible in the first 20 overs. You do that, then your middle order superstars can kind of come in and smash it around. My only issue with Gill opening is I don't want a situation where you've put this guy in Australia, which is the hardest place to bat in. He fails in 4 test matches. You've ruined him mentally. he can't play England in India because he's failed them 4 test matches, and you lose the guy for 3-4 years. I think he's too good to lose. I think India have to look after him and groom him in, because otherwise what will happen, let me tell you something, the same guys that are after punt right now are the same guys in 2018 which was saying punt for the World Cup, let's sack Dhoni, punt for the World Cup, right? So when you big a player up too much and he does not deliver, people get after him, and Gill's too good a player to do that too.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think he's too good. That's why he should open. I think he can handle it, and he will prove it if he does.
I'm a big Gill fan. I think he's the next big thing. You know, we're fortunate as Indians that we had Tendulkar followed by Virat, and now hopefully Shubman Gill.
Yeah, well, let's not mention Shubman Gill and Tendulkar in the same sentence for the time being, please. Amanda, what do you think about the other batsmen involved here?
I think Gill should definitely be given a chance in the tests. I don't think there should be any arguments of leaving him out. But between Prithvi and KL, I'm a big KL Rahul fan, but I'm going to have to go with Prithvi on this one. I think he's, even though the last 2 tests for him weren't great, I think he can come out there. He's kind of an attacking player, but hopefully he comes in maybe 3 down or something like that, and he just after all the runs being scored, he sort of just take them slowly.
Yeah, blooding people in. Blooding people in at the right time. Well, don't worry, Amanda. I'm sure we'll see Devdutt Padikkal in the test team in not too long. Sanchit, what do you think about the rest of the guys?
Actually, I'm not a big fan of Prithvi Shaw and his technique, but I think I agree with a couple of people around here. I think Prithvi Shaw deserves a chance to open. I think because in 2018, before the Australian series, he scored 100 on his debut, and we all talked about how important series this will be for Prithvi Shaw when he was touring in 2018. But for unfortunate reasons, he could not play that particular series. So I believe that if it was any other series than Australia, maybe South Africa or England away, then Prithvi Shaw would not have started because of his technique playing against swing. But I think if we could I think the key to play in Australia is just to survive the new ball. And if Prithvi Shaw could just manage to do that, he's going to score plenty of runs. And we already saw glimpses of that in the practice games. So I think this is a big series for Prithvi Shaw, and along with Shaw, even for players like Gill and Vihari also, because Vihari, it seems that he is going to be playing at number 4 after Virat Kohli leaves. So that's going to be a very important series for him as well. And talking about Gill, I have been following him for a long time, and I believe that he's the next big thing, as some of you have said. But it's not appropriate for him to be opening in his first game. I believe that because he is someone who I look that he should be stabilizing our middle order, because he was actually selected to play in our middle order, and I believe that opening with him would just cause chaos in our lineup. And the Indian team management has done plenty of decision in the past, so I believe that we should back Shaw at the top of the order, and we should have Gill play in the middle order, because that's going to be the ideal position for him. And we saw his ability to play with the new ball in this practice game. So I believe that if Australia takes the new ball in some of the games, then Gill could have a good game in that particular middle order, batting with Pant or Saha, whoever plays.
Also, when Shaw got injured at the beginning of the last tour, I remember a lot of fans were quite concerned because they thought actually Shaw would have been really good for that series going in last time. So I think a few failures in New Zealand and obviously, some white ball stuff, it doesn't really change the talent that Prithvi is, because I do remember the last time we all were concerned that he wasn't going to play and we thought he was going to do well. So I don't see what changes that really.
The problem with the first test is if Shaw opens, there's no Gill. That's the problem. And, Gill has played really well in the last 2 warm-up games, right? So it's how do you fit Gill in, because you've got Pujara, VK, Rahane as your 3 middle orders, and probably Vihari 4. Agarwal as your opener. So if Shaw opens, there's no Gill until test 2. The only way around that is open with Vihari and have Gill in the middle, or open with Gill and Agarwal. So, but I think that's the toughest decision, whether to keep or drop Prithvi Shaw.
Yeah, and sorry, the problem I have with people like Pant and Prithvi Shaw is they just seem to be repeating the same mistakes again and again. Okay, the same kind of shots. We saw that in IPL as well. I know it's a different ball game. So it doesn't inspire confidence in me that they're going to stay in there for a test match and do what we need.
Okay, on that point, I agree with you. Shaw and Pant, right? They play the same repeated shots. What is your opinion on Ajinkya Rahane that gets to 30 off 70 balls and plays that same waft outside off stump and has been doing that for the last 5 years and no one even talks? Actually, they rewarded him with the captaincy for that. What are your thoughts on that same irresponsibility by Rahane?
No, if I had a chance, like you said earlier, Rahane wouldn't be in my team as well. Now that he's a vice captain, we don't have a choice or an opinion.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
But I just...
Poor Ajinkya Rahane, honestly. He's taking such a smashing.
It's because he's a good boy. Look, there's no mention in the media about him. It's just because he's a good boy. He stays away from Instagram. You know, he just quietly does his business. None of these gold chains. He doesn't go to clubs. So everyone thinks, he's a good boy. So he's fine. We'll keep him in Indian team for 10 years.
Fair enough. Ahan, we're back talking about Prithvi Shaw again. Jesus.
Yeah, and actually, my view is probably different from what everyone has said here. But I think firstly, I have no faith in Prithvi Shaw. I have supported a team that he plays for too long. He's just.
Have you noticed that it's Prithvi Shaw, Rishabh Pant that we're talking about the most? Shreyas Iyer failed in the white ball series as well. Delhi Capitals is the problem.
I've been trying to defend these people for 3 months now. But anyway. I think I have no faith in Shaw. Like he looked, especially against the moving ball in the Adelaide Test and stuff. And I know people were saying that we wanted him here 2 years ago, but then again with Shaw also he's been on a downward slide. So if they're using that, if that logic is being used for Pant, then it should be used for Shaw as well. And I think Shaw is right now he's in a very, very fragile state of mind. He's not even got that kind of runs backing behind him. And I think given what people are saying that in Australia the most important thing is that you have to ride out the new ball. Shaw just gives me no faith in riding out the new ball. And like even if he gets runs, he'll get you 50 of like 30 balls, but then he'll get out, and then you haven't ridden out the new ball and you expose the rest of the batting. So actually, I have a more radical solution for this. Actually, I think so. Shaw. For me, Gill should open. He's the better technical player, and also the ideal situation for me is Gill and Mayank do really well, and that means Rohit doesn't come in because I don't think Rohit is an overseas opener, especially when we go to England next year. I think Rohit will get exposed really badly if he opens in the test matches. I think Gill and Mayank have better technique. So ideally, those are the two I want opening in England. Therefore, hopefully they do well in the first 2 tests and then there's no space for Rohit to come back. Therefore, once Kohli leaves, I'd have Vihari at 4, Rahane at 5, and I'd actually bring in KL Rahul at 6. Because I think after Virat, he is probably the biggest batting superstar India has. And if he gets in, when he's got the game, if the ball is not moving around, he's got the game to play and score big runs. And I think if he's batting at 6, he'll probably have an easier job than opening. He won't have to face the moving ball as much, and he's going to come in for the red ball test matches anyway, so the ball won't be moving under lights. And I think at 6K, if you have a middle order then of you got Pujara and Vihari who give the solidity, even Rahane who give the solidity and like the kind of secureness, and then you've got your shot makers in Rahul and Pant at 6 and 7, and then if Jadeja is playing, if he's fit by then and he plays the test matches, he bats at 8. That's giving you a lot of batting. It's giving you a good mix of people who will bide their time, score big runs over a long time, but also people who can score. And like supposing you're playing for a declaration, you've got that as well in your team. So I think Rahul at 6 is an idea that I don't know if a lot of people have considered, but it might be something that could work for India because he's got the game. He is a white ball superstar for sure. And he just needs to, I think a lot of people are holding his red ball record against him from when he was playing. Obviously he played really badly, but I think Harsha Bhogle said something that after the whole Coffee with Karan incident happened, it kind of like flicked a switch in him and Pandya actually. Both of them have matured a lot more since that scandal that they both went through. And I think, therefore, it is fair. Like, I hope he gets given a go. And I think in the state that he's in a much calmer, more mature state. He will, if he just applies himself, he's got all the shots, all the game to make his name back in the red ball format.
Yeah, Abhishek, what do you think?
I tend to disagree with Ahan actually again on this particular one. I think a couple of guys have made the point already, but I think KL's had too many chances in red ball cricket. He's already been on 2 tours to Australia, and in the last tour, we found ourselves 0 for 1, time after time, and he had to be dropped after the first couple of tests. And I just, him being given another chance again when you've got someone like Prithvi Shaw there who has actually acquitted himself pretty well in Test cricket so far. I just don't see the logic behind, bringing KL back into the fold. I completely respect what he's done in white ball. The last couple of years, he's been fantastic. And I think, he, for me, like Pandya, for example, is a player that can, really be a key, white ball player for us. But in terms of the Test arena, I just think he's had his chances. And I would open with Prithvi Shaw. He, like some of the guys have said, he was unfortunate to miss out on the Australia series last time around when he rolled his ankle in the warm-up. But so far in Test cricket, I think he's done pretty well. So for me, his partnership with Mayank Agarwal at the top of the order, I think is the way to go. I know Jin mentioned that where does Shubman Gill fit into all of this? And I think Gill for me is, again, a future superstar. So, he's got to come into that side after Kohli goes home in the first Test, I think. I don't think there's too much of an issue with leaving him out in the first Test match. But I think, in his first big series, we should be, surrounding Gill in the middle order with, the likes of Pujara and Rahane to give him the best chance to come off. So I think for me, Gill slots in at 4 after the second Test. And Prithvi Shaw, not done too much wrong for me so far in Test cricket. So I'd stick with him at the top.
I just had one question though. I mean, I get all this talk about protecting Gill, but the thing is, Gill bats as an opener even in the Ranji Trophy for for his team. And I mean, there was none of this talk about why is it only that we're suddenly talking about protecting Gill? He's an opener. He should go and open and play his job. Yeah, but I agree with that. But the thing is, I mean, Shaw he came in and opened straight from the off. So many players come in and open. If he's an opener by trade, why are we saying we need to protect him and bat him down the order?
Because for India A, Gill didn't used to bat as an opener. So, I just think to myself that if the selectors and, the Indian think tank thought of Gill as an opener, surely they would have opened him in India A. But I don't know, I could be wrong. I just hope, Gill does the business, whether he's opening or is a middle order.
It's Australia away, and I think that's just about as hard as it gets. So
exactly,
I think we need to give him a bit of a chance to at least bed in. I'm not saying he couldn't open in Australia on the next tour. Maybe he could, but I just think that there's so much to gain from this guy that don't you want to give him the best chance of succeeding long term?
Did KL also debut Australia away though, and he's got 100 in his second Test match opening the batting?
Yeah, he did. But did you see that dismissal? I think his first ever dismissal was just...
Yeah, the one where he was like...
Yeah. The thing with KL Rahul is he's played 42 Test matches or something like that, right? He averages 34. That is the kind of average a West Indian Test batsman averages, right? And people write off Rohit Sharma. Rohit Sharma has not had more than 3 Test matches playing together in an away series, right? It just baffles me how people can write off Rohit, say, in England he can't play the moving ball, etc. But they're willing to say, let's back KL and give him a chance, even though he's had 35 Test matches. Give Rohit Sharma is the best white ball Indian batsman there. So if you're going to use white ball as a criteria to make the Indian team, then let's give Rohit Sharma a good run. I personally think if you say to Rohit Sharma, you've got 5 Test matches, we're not going to drop you, he will probably do the job for you. Because when Rohit Sharma opened the batting in Champions Trophy 2013, everyone was like, what the heck is Dhoni doing? But what did Dhoni do? He backed the player. I think when you back a player mentally, Sehwag's another one. He was backed by Ganguly, you see the results.
Yeah, let's hear from Akshay and then we'll go back over to Sanchit.
Yeah, I think just first of all on the Rohit Sharma point, for me, his Test career sort of never got going, and I didn't have any interest in getting his Test career going now at 33 years of age. So I understand, yeah, he's probably he'll be a better Test cricketer than KL Rahul, but KL Rahul has 5 years on him. So I'm more willing to give KL Rahul another chance. He's taken his white ball career to another level in the last 2 years. Can he translate that to red ball? I don't know, but I'd be much more willing to give him that chance, because in the long term, there's more legs on him. Whereas Rohit Sharma, 33 years of age, for me now, with these guys like Prithvi Shaw, Shubman Gill coming up, I think he's there as a backup if we need him. Could be using this tour for experience without Kohli. We all know how good a captain he is, so he can certainly help with Jinky Rahane. So I think there's value in having him on the side for this tour. But apart from that, I wouldn't be playing Rohit Sharma in Test cricket. I think it's a shame that he probably, as you said, he never got that run of games that he probably deserved in a way series. But that ship sailed for me now. In just one point I want to make on Prithvi Shaw as well. I do think people are being very, very harsh with Prithvi Shaw. He's played four Test matches. And when he came on the scene, everyone was saying Prithvi Shaw is the next big thing. I know everyone's saying that about Shubman Gill now, and he probably will be. But if you rewind 2-3 years, everyone was saying Prithvi Shaw is going to be the next best thing.
Yeah, he was the original next big thing before Shubman Gill came along.
And I think if this IPL didn't happen, I don't think he'd be getting as much stick as he is. He had a really, really poor IPL. And I think people are using what they've seen in the last couple of months watching IPL and saying, no, Prithvi Shaw's not good enough. He's got poor technique. He drives hard outside off stump. So I think if you completely disregard that and look at purely what he's done with the red ball, I know he averages over 60 in first class cricket. In his very, very short career so far, he's averaging 55 for India in Test cricket. So I think we should be judging Prithvi Shaw purely on his red ball ability, and not what his failings in the white ball recently. He didn't have a great away series to New Zealand, but no one did really. So I think we got to back the guy. We've got to give him a chance. There's obviously something about him. He's played 4 matches. Let's judge him once he's played 15, 20 matches.
Yeah, Sanjay.
I would like to begin on resuming the topic about Rohit Sharma. I don't want to talk about the future of having Rohit Sharma in the side. I would just like to talk about his impact in Australia. And I agree with some of you that he has not been given a longer rope in Test matches, especially overseas. We saw his record in the home series. He has a tremendous record, scoring a couple of double hundreds, I think he has. But if you talk about Australia, I think these are the conditions that actually suits his style of play. He likes the ball coming onto the bat. He likes the pace onto the ball. So I believe that this is a particular series that requires the caliber of Rohit Sharma in our side, especially with Kohli not in our side. I don't know how we would try to fit him in, maybe back in the middle order or maybe with opening the innings. But I think Australia and Rohit Sharma actually has a good love story around. So especially on bouncy tracks, maybe Gabba in the 4th Test, I think Rohit Sharma would thrive well. And even in the last two tours, he had scored a good amount of runs. He scored 50, but then he could not convert it into a big one. So I believe that Rohit Sharma has the ability to bat in the Australian conditions, and he could be a handy asset for us. And talking about KL Rahul, I think he's been yet another debatable player around, and I don't think that he has done enough to warrant his place into the Test side. So I don't believe that he should be given a chance, especially ahead of someone like Shubman Gill for that matter. And KL Rahul, I believe that if he gets a chance in the team, it should be in the middle order and not while opening the innings, because we require KL Rahul in the middle order, especially in conditions like Australia. So but for now, I would not like to start off this tour with KL Rahul in the side, and that's certainly my opinion about this.
I agree with you on your assessment with Rohit Sharma, with bouncy tracks being his forte, etc. But I mean, he's on the plane to Australia. I really hope India don't select him for Test 3 and 4, because I'm a Rohit Sharma fan. Don't get me wrong, but how someone can not play cricket for so long, come back from injury, and then start playing Test cricket, it just baffles me. He's on the plane now, because it just does not make sense to get a guy to play Test cricket straight after injury with no practice.
I can't imagine he's gone on the tour at all if they don't intend on playing him at some point. I think raised earlier, Anusha said it, and I think otherwise it's just a waste of time, isn't it? So I can see him coming in, to be honest.
And the problem is, what message does that give to the guys who are going to play the second test? Like, first test, we're already struggling to get Gill in if Prithvi Shaw's your opener. If Prithvi Shaw's your opener, Gill is not playing the first test. So when Virat Kohli goes, you say Prithvi Shaw's Gill's slotting into your middle order. So how do you fit Rohit Sharma in the third test? Are you dropping Pujara? Are you dropping Rahane? Or are you dropping Vihari? But what about if Vihari scores runs? So it's a tricky one.
So Jinesh, is this an age-old problem of India selecting players based on their reputation and not actually what they can do for the team?
Probably. I mean, look, personally, if whoever plays the first test, I hope management say, you've got all 4 tests. Back them for all 4 tests. And then VK, Shubman Gill or whoever comes in and gets the 3 tests. I think if we start chopping and changing, we are in big trouble. If we open with Prithvi and Mayank Agarwal and then second test, we have Gill in the middle order, and then third test, we bring in Rohit or KL and then start opening with Gill, I think we're in big trouble. If we stop playing musical chairs, we are in trouble.
Well, I'll tell you what Rohit Sharma really needs, in my opinion, and that is, I think, for Nita Ambani to become the head of the BCCI. He'll have all the help he needs. So if we are going to do anything, of note in this test series, I think that most of our hopes rely on the capable shoulders of Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami, who are going to have to pull out another blinder as they did in the last test series down there. Now, the biggest omission from our squad going over there, arguably, is Ishant Sharma, who was a great third wheel in the last time we played over in Australia and added some great support to Shami and Bumrah. I'm going to go over to Amanda first, because Amanda, if we're going to talk about who's going to come into that position and be the support for Shami and Bumrah, we obviously have the name of Mohammad Siraj coming into the team, and he's certainly doing a decent job with the pink ball in the India A matches at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if Mohammad Siraj is playing really well with the pink ball, I think it's going to make a huge difference in the first test, bringing Mohammad in. Obviously, with the pink ball, you have like a lot more swing. And, if you can crack that and, play well with those kind of conditions, then great. So I definitely love to see Mohammad Siraj finally play. And, I think the bowlers in general have got to take advantage of the fact that it's a pink ball test. Because, the pitch keeps on changing, the pink ball in the beginning, has that. It's because of that extra coating that gives it a lot more swing. So you've got to take advantage of those kind of things that come your way. So if the bowlers don't, say we're bowling first and the bowlers don't take advantage of that and somehow mess up, then it's going to be pretty difficult for us to come back after that.
Yeah, and along with Mohammad Siraj, we also have the other RCB fast bowler in there. We've got Navdeep Saini coming into the team as well. So between those two, which one would you rather go with? I mean, I guess pink ball. I guess most people would say send Mohammad Siraj in because, of course, he tends to get a lot more swing. But you think Saini will come in the later tests as well?
Perhaps the later test, but we need to, check out the first test and see how well that goes for the rest of the bowlers like Bumrah, Shami. They're all top class players. And with Mohammad being a good swing bowler, if he takes advantage of that and, ends up doing really well in the first test, it's going to be a tough decision for the team to pick Navdeep Saini and get him into the team. So could not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see there. Yeah, Anusha, last time you were down in Australia, I'm sure that watching Bumrah in particular must have been a massive highlight for you down there.
Oh yes, it was, and I also remember some wickets and how we celebrated with the team, etc. So it was great fun. But Ishant, I think, is a massive miss, bigger than even Kohli, if I may say.
I agree. Yeah.
For this series, but for the pink ball, Siraj could be the one because he gets a lot of movement. But again, I'm not very confident of his consistency, whatever little I've seen. But I think they will go with Siraj in the first one. Saini might, again, the next test onwards, the third seamer, they would want to go for seniority with Umesh, again, which I'm not very convinced about. So I hope at least Saini gets a chance in the second test as a third seamer.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Sanjit, which way do you think that this bowling lineup is gonna form up?
I think it's between Umesh Yadav and Mohammad Siraj for me. I'm not sure that Umesh Yadav would be getting the opportunity in the first test, given that he's not played the first two the second practice game. But I really like Mohammad Siraj, and his record in the domestic format actually speaks for itself. And there was one game in the IPL. I know that the two different ball games, but there was one game in the IPL where it was entirely bowling friendly condition, and it was a green top, and along with that there was for swing, and Siraj actually bowled really well, and that actually shows how impactful he would be, especially on a green top in Adelaide and with the pink ball in his hand. So I think he holds an advantage over Navdeep Saini, and so I believe that he should be the one starting if Umesh Yadav is not playing. But Umesh Yadav actually has a very good home record, I think, because it's always dominated by the spinners. But I believe that Umesh Yadav has done pretty good job as a pacer for the home series. But if you're thinking of starting off this particular series, I think Siraj deserves a go because he has been bowling really well and pretty disciplined lines as well in the second practice game. So it would be really wise for us if we start off with Siraj. But yes, once again, that to mention Ishan Sharma being a big miss. I think someone in the group actually said that he's the Neil Wagner of Indian cricket. So that just shows that how big of a miss he would be. But I hope that Siraj or Saini or Umesh, whoever gets to be picked as a third seaming option, actually does the job well. And I agree with one of you who have mentioned the point that if we had to pick a squad in the first test match, that should be consistent for all the test match. So we need to back our bowlers as well as the batsmen. So there needs to be less chopping and changing, I believe, in order for us to build a test match team to be playing in the next 2-3 years. So I think this is a good opportunity for some of the players around.
Yeah, Abhishek. Last time obviously the Australia series happened, I don't think we've ever seen Australians being bullied the way that the Indian fast bowlers bullied them in that series, which is great to watch for us. But now that Ishan Sharma isn't going to be there to pick up the slack, I mean, obviously we're talking about Saini, we're talking about Mohammad Siraj, but is it still going to be Umesh Yadav? Do you think he's going to come in that place?
Well, the selectors might go that way. I can see Umesh actually playing for his experience. I agree with Anusha when she said that I think the loss of Ishan is just as big a loss as Virat Kohli. He completes that pace battery and gives it another real, new dimension, which, complements Bumrah and Shami really well. And I think whoever's going to come in, in that first test match, there's going to be an element of risk, whoever we pick now from the options that we have. I'd be leaning towards playing Mohammad Siraj, purely because of the fact that I think Umesh Yadav, for me, away in test cricket, is, proved his lack of worth, shall we say. And so, you've got Siraj and Saini as the other two. And I think Saini's maybe a bit more of the unknown quantity. Siraj's domestic record has actually been quite decent. And obviously Kohli's got, a lot of trust in him. So I think I would lean towards Mohammad Siraj as that third seamer choice. But I think either way, whichever one we go with, it's going to be a bit of a risk. We're just going to have to hope that whoever gets opportunity steps up, because that's a real crucial position in the team.
Yeah, Ahan, what do you think about the fast bowling attack, and even obviously the spinners as well? We've got Jadeja, Ashwin, and Kuldeep Yadav to pick from.
I'm pretty confused about who the third seamer should be. I think each of them have their pros and cons. I'd probably, given that the team management hasn't played Umesh in the pink ball test, either they're trying to shield him so that that he doesn't give away all his cards, or they are considering it's a toss up between Siraj and Saini. And if that is the case, then Siraj will probably start. Though, I don't know. I feel like for the first test, they should probably play Umesh because he's got the experience as well. And I think Siraj is good, and so is Saini, but they're really not. They've not got any high level. They're going to be debuting. Whichever one of the two plays, I think, is going to be debuting in that game. And I think it's a tough ask to come straight in and expect to bowl the right lines and lengths, everything. And I think Umesh has done it. I mean, he's got a great test record in India over the last, I don't know how many years, especially when the ball starts reversing. So given that the ball is going to be swinging, I think maybe they should give him the go at least for the first test. Or whatever they do, I just hope they don't go in with no spinners, because I remember India recently, either in South Africa, I think it was in England, they went in with 4 pacers and no spinners, and it cost them because they realized how important the spinner was. So I hope, because in this practice match, they've gone in with 4 spacers and no spinners, and Vihari as this spinner. So I just hope they don't do that, because we do need a frontline spinner. And I was just looking at Ashwin. I think Ashwin, whether or not we think he's obviously Jadeja is the better batsman, but I don't know who I still would consider the better spinner overseas. Ashwin is probably better, because when Ashwin in first test matches in the last time we toured Australia, even in the last time we toured England, he has an incredible record. He's taken, I think, a combined 13 wickets in those 2 games. So after that, I don't know if his body gives way or he falls off, but his record really drops from the second, third, fourth test matches. So given that I don't think Jadeja is going to be fit anyway in the first test at least, I think we should definitely play Ashwin, because he's the most experienced spinner we have, and he knows these conditions. He's played here before. He knows the lines and lengths to bowl. So I think Ashwin should get a go with whoever they go with, the other 3. And then if Ashwin bowls well, then maybe stick with him. Otherwise, Jadeja is there anyway. If he gets fit, if Jadeja is fit by the time the second or third test match comes around, then you can.
Yeah, Rav, what do you think?
I think it's pre-decided. Probably Siraj will play the pink ball test match, and I think Umesh Yadav will come in again when those surfaces are flatter, skiddier, and he can probably get a bit of reverse out of them. I think the only ground that you'll get 2 spinners will be Sydney, and I think obviously Ashwin. I think Josh Hazlewood made a really good point in a press conference last week where he said, our key is to get as many overs into Bumrah as possible. So that means that you need your spinner to do a really, really good job in tying up an end for the majority of a day. That test match that Ahan references, it was Perth, the last series, where we didn't go in with a spinner and we lost heavily. And it was Nathan Lyon who did a lot of the damage against us. So I think definitely you need a spinner for balance. And I think Siraj under lights, he's got a very good A record in Australia as well. I think he took a 9-wicket haul last tour. So I would go Siraj for the first test, 3 and 1 with 1 spinner. And then I'd probably look at if there's a lot of rotation that's going to be needed anyway, because these test matches are coming thick and fast. So maybe you look at a Saini for, I don't know, Brisbane, where it's more bouncy, and you look for Umesh to try and contain it. But the problem he's had over the last, I think, 2 or 3 Australian tours now is lack of control over both length and line. And in Australia, if there's one thing you can't do is bowl short and all over the place, because you will get hammered. And that's the big issue for India.
Yeah, Akshay, which way is the tide going to turn for our bowling attack?
No, I think I completely agree with Rav. I think with Umesh, he's too much of a liability with his control. And you can just imagine him being very, very expensive if he doesn't get it right. So I think we've got experience as Indian fans being disappointed with Umesh when he costs us too many runs. Of course, he has a peach of a delivery in him, but he's too much of a risk, and he's shown that over a number of years. And that's why he's never been able to hold down a position in the team in any format, really. So me personally, I'd go with Siraj. He doesn't particularly excite me, if I'm being completely honest. I've been fairly disappointed with him with the white ball over the couple of years that I've seen him play, but he does have a good red ball record. So there's a reason he's been picked, because of his red ball record in the domestic circuit. So I think if you pick him on that basis, he should start in the 11, because there's obviously something about him. Saini again, haven't seen much of. His short career is, he's 28 years old. His short career with the white ball that we've seen has been fairly impressive. Hits the deck hard. But purely on red ball experience to fit into Ishant Sharma's shoes, I've got to go with Mohammad Siraj. And spinners again, pretty self-explanatory. I think Ashwin starts and Jadeja could come in depending on how Ashwin fares, but that should be fairly fluid. Ashwin's away record in Test cricket isn't great, but he's the guy that's fit in the first test, so you've got to give him a go, and hopefully he does well.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Jinesh, what are your thoughts on this bowling attack?
Pretty much the same as everyone else. Bumrah, Shami, obviously, are the first choices. You want a replacement for Ishant. I think out of the three available, Siraj is probably the closest possible. You'd probably want him to bowl tight to help the other two out. Ashwin, not a great fan of his, but unfortunately Jadu's injured. You know, Ashwin's been out-bowled by Nathan Lyon and Moeen Ali, right? So I don't rate him at all. But unfortunately, we don't have any better.
God, he must be really bad to get out-bowled by Muhammad Ali. Well, with that concludes our series preview of the Australia series coming up. So the last thing we're going to do is let's just have a quick show of hands here. Who actually thinks, with a show of hand, that India are not going to lose this Test series? Who thinks we're capable of a win or a draw? 3 people. Fair enough. And who thinks we're going to lose every single Test match? No, I'm joking. Well, anyway, let's keep our hopes up. There's always hope, everybody. While Virat Kohli is there in the first Test, there's hope. And as I predicted, it's time for my prediction now. As I predicted that Chennai Super Kings were going to win the last IPL, I now predict that we are going to see a Prithvi Shaw triple ton at some point in this Test series. That's my prediction. So thank you very much for joining us, everybody. And we'll be seeing you on the next podcast. Hit us up on all of our social media and, like, share, subscribe, do all the regular stuff. And we'll be seeing you soon. Take care. Jai Hind.